Jeffrey Catalano of High Water Sound in New York City is one of the most talented distributors of high-fidelity gear in the USA. A former drummer, he played with saxophonist Charlie Ventura, among others. Jeffrey's High Water Sound rooms consistently win Best Sound of Show across the country year after year, decade after decade. In addition to assembling incredibly musical and lifelike hi-fi systems, Jeffrey plays the best music always on vinyl. If you want to hear interesting music on a fantastic system, you head to one of Catalano's rooms or to his building in one of Manhattan's oldest neighborhoods on an ancient block, Water Street. Formerly known as the Fulton Fish Market, Catalano moved into his then derelict building in the 1970s and has converted it into a beautifully rustic space dominated by audio equipment and vinyl LPs and a large sheepdog. But the ghosts of fishmongers, mobsters, early settlers, and literal ghosts abound on his Water Street block. In this video, we cover how to hear or listen to music, the role of the drummer, how to assemble and set up a great system, why some people feel the need to buy status gear, and much more.
I have been seeing you set up at shows for I don't know how long, and you consistently produce, like you're in the top 2% of best sounding rooms every year, no matter where you're at. Everybody knows it, whether or not they are into solid state, digital, or analog or whatever, but you do it every year. And last year at Expona was maybe the best I've ever heard. You topped yourself, and I was just dumbstruck. What is your, I mean, you have all this amazing gear, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but what is key to getting great sound in a hotel room of all places?
I know how to listen.
What do you mean?
That's probably my greatest strength. I know what music sounds like. And so I just go inside. I go inside the music, and I let it tell me how it's supposed to be alive, how it's supposed to live in that space. And I know that sounds kind of simplistic and maybe somewhat esoteric or pretentious even, but it's not. I mean, that's really the key. So, I've done this for a long time also. So now I have the general sense of how everything goes. But that's how I learned, was just by listening. And I think part of big issue with shows in general, exhibitors usually have attitudes where, well, it's just a hotel room, nobody cares. Or people understand that it's a hotel room. Or they just don't care, period, because they're just busy talking, they're just trying to hawk something. I look at it, I'm stuck in that room for 3 days. Usually, 10 hours a day, not including the setup. So I'm in there for, say, 40 to 50 hours for every show.
Wow.
So I've got to make it so I want to be in there. Because my focus is to make that system be good to me. So I can sit there, close my eyes, and just enjoy. Even if nobody else ever comes into that room, I could sit there for that 50 hours and just enjoy listening to those 400 or 500 records I bring to every show.
Those 400 or 500 records I bring to every show. And you always play amazing music, and often things I've never heard of before. You're where I first heard of Melanie DiBiasio.
Right.
And just all kinds of stuff. You just have such huge ears. It's really remarkable. Well, when you set up the system, is there a process like that you do every time?
No.
Like, do you?
No. No, I mean, there's the mechanics of the whole thing. Obviously, I look for the aesthetic, and I kind of say, okay, then we're going to do this. Obviously, you're constrained by cable lengths. You're constrained by room size. You've got to get the equipment. So you get things set up where you can turn everything on. Then I do the turntable. And so once the turntable's set up, I usually bring a CD player with me so I can let the system warm with the CD player. But I don't start adjusting the speakers until I use the turntable, not the CD player. Because the CD player flattens everything, right? So you need the turntable to get the depth, to get the width, to get the height. So once I get the turntable going, then I'll start setting up. And I'll usually set up with a mono record. And I kind of just get it so I can walk around the room and I'm getting that same signal all the way around. So the music's alive in every corner, everything. And then I'll sit down with the stereo record. Then I'll start getting the image right. So whether or not, it's getting the center image, which usually the mono's already giving me that. But with the stereo, then I can start getting more into the nuance of that room, make the room part of the system, make the room another instrument where I'm getting the depth, I'm getting the height, and I'm getting the width, I'm getting the impact, I'm getting the idea the speakers disappear. You want that vocalist to be there. You want that band to be there. We don't want the system to be there, really. And I know it's a funny way to go about trying to sell audio equipment, but I've never tried to sell audio equipment.
Really?
I'm getting people to listen.
Right.
And if they connect with the music that I'm producing, then they're going to, how did you do that? And then they start looking at the equipment. The equipment's nothing without the music. The music's everything without the equipment. So that's simple.
So many incremental speaker moves.
Yeah. Yeah, but once again, I've done this for so long now I've exhibited conservatively over 120 shows.
Wow.
So I kind of already know. I clap my hands when I walk into a room, and I can kind of hear where everything is going. I just doing, just talking. I can kind of figure things out.
You can hear the room. Yeah. Is there a particular record you always use to set up? It's interesting.
So I'll use this, and that will tell me if the system's right or not. Because I know this record so well. I mean, I bought it when it came out, whenever that was, 1970 or whatever.
But you also carry pretty, compared to the mainstream of high end, you carry unusual esoteric brands. How do you choose your brands? Yeah, how do you choose your brands that you're going to carry? And where do you hear them?
Okay, so that's a tough one. So luckily I have a good reputation worldwide. So a lot of manufacturers seek me out. But I also keep my ear to the ground too. And other manufacturers that I trust, and I've become friends with these people. It's not just a whole business relationship. It's a friendship I establish. And they'll tell me like, oh, you should check this out, or, and so a lot of it comes that way. How I get to hear it, I have to buy. So people have this idea that these manufacturers send me stuff. So I have to go out on a limb, actually pay for it, then import it, set up all that, the importation, set up all the wire transfer, set up everything to bring something in that I might hate or might not like or might not fit. And, people always think, oh, it's great. You get to get all this great equipment at great pricing, which is true. But I pay for every system you have in your home. I've probably paid 20 times that in stuff I more or less just had to toss because it's been no good.
Why is it that some gear, and we won't name names, that are stratospherically priced can sound like such dog shit? Why is that?
Okay, a lot, the one thing, and pretty much everybody that knows me, I never usually comment on other people's gear or other people's systems because we all perceive things differently. There's a lot of reasons why gear exists or anything exists. So a lot of things are made just to be expensive, exclusive. So whether or not it's in its design, its materials being used, I look for things that get to the soul of the music. I mean, End of story. So, and I think growing up as a musician, growing up in a house full of music, I go right to that every time. So yes, it has to be made well. Yes, it hopefully looks cool, you know. Hopefully the person who makes it isn't an asshole, you know. I mean, because a lot of them are, you know. So it's like any manufacturer I deal with that I'm in for the long term, I got to feel they're my friend. I got to feel like I want to sit there and, you know, go on vacation with them, hang out, have meals with them, you know, and there can't be any of this kind of walls between us.
Right.
You know, and they need to hear my input on what they're doing as much as I need their input on what they're doing. It's a two-way street. And, you know, I'm really lucky to have such great manufacturers and people behind those companies to work with. I've been very, very fortunate that way.
Can you elaborate on that, the idea that gear exists for more than one reason?
One of the primary reasons people buy gear is for status. End of story. And so whether or not it's status is gained from a lot of different ways, but mainly it's in the magazines. Okay? And this is not a fault of the magazines, but, you know, it's what it is. So if something is really pushed, you know, then, and it's got an expensive price, then people think, oh my God, that's good. But unfortunately, I don't think most people know how to hear. You have to learn how to hear. Once again, it's not me being sarcastic, contentious, whatever, any kind of negatives at all. It's really about most people react. They're not listening. You know, to listen, you have to go inside. You know, and you have to learn a lot about yourself. You have to learn a lot about what those musicians are doing. You have to learn a lot about what that recording was, how that recording was made. There's so much involved with being able to sit down and listen. So if you're just there, and it doesn't mean you don't love music, but, you know, music is just software. And that's what a lot of people call music, is the software. It's all about the equipment, and that's fine. We need people like that to keep spending their money to keep the industry alive. So once again, I am not at all casting stones here. So it's okay. But it's like I try to reach people that have kind of gone through everything and have always looked for something deeper. And I hope that's what I provide. You know, is more of a soul-nourishing kind of experience and still have really cool stuff.
First listening, it's like what Herb Reichert always says, you have to know what to listen for, which was a real kind of revelation to me. But it's interesting. John DeVore is a drummer. I was a drummer. Were a drummer. So I think we kind of have the hearing built in to some degree. Particularly if you grew up, I mean, John is not a jazz drummer, but that guy can obviously hear. That's because his speakers sound like, you know, flesh and blood. Yeah.
I think one thing, drummers are the most misunderstood of all the musicians. You know, so I think back as like a kid, the Beatles first started. Ringo was a joke. Ringo's one of the greatest drummers of all time. That's right. Ringo's one of the most influential drummers of all times. So, kind of in a weird way, Ringo's probably the greatest musician that came out of the Beatles. Now, he's not a songwriter. That's a different story. He's not a great singer. Sorry, Ringo. That's another story. You know? But as an actual musician, kind of hard to top him. What happens, though, with drummers? You're the conductor. All the other people, whether or not it's a rock band, if it's an orchestra, whatever, you're that heartbeat. You're the one that is setting the tempo. You're the one that's, is setting the dynamic level. You're the one is setting the whole rhythmic vibe of the whole thing. And so, yeah, sure, the bass player does a little of that, or but most musicians are only there when they're soloing. Now we're going to jazz. Sorry about that, but because that's where mainly our focus is anything. But the thing is, the drummer's always there, kind of keeping it all together, propelling it, slowing it, moving it, projecting it, whatever. It's all the drummer. Everybody else can stop, but the sub keeps going when the drummer keeps.
Correct. Always flying, always on, always setting the mood.
Yeah.
Right. So it's so maybe we're so trained to listen anyway.
That was my point. I'm sorry I didn't get to that. Yeah. And it was my point, is that we're so, as you like to always say, in the pocket. Drummer, in having that sensibility, you kind of have to know what everybody else is doing and orchestrate within those people, keep those people all together. So that's how I think we can hear and we can deal with the whole audio thing. It's kind of the same thing. So you're dealing with components in a room and everything, just like you're dealing with band members and hall, and you're kind of trying to hear how to put it all together.
Well, tell me about some of your top brands and why you carry them.
The reason I have the brands that I have aren't because they're easy sell or they're trying to have something for every price point and all of that kind of stuff. I am the world's worst business person. I have no clue about business. I never want to have a clue about business. It's just not who I am. So I go into this with trying to find musical transducers that speak to me. And I feel like if it speaks to me, it's going to speak to somebody else. So from something like the Horning hybrid speakers out of Denmark, I've been dealing with Tommy Horning for over 22, 23 years, and once again, there's just something right about those speakers. I don't know what it is. It's just right. They just keep getting better. And then to be able to have a turntable from TW Acoustic, from Thomas Wishnick, same thing. It's just very, very simple in its application and the way it's done, but it just isn't right. So you have somebody like Thomas Wishnick that makes TW tables. He's just distilling it all down to just the essence, what's needed, and every part has its place. All the ingredients of what the tables are made of, like cooking. And it just comes together just for some reason, in my mind, my heart, my soul, they're right. And then to couple it with Cesaro's, I mean, my God. Ralph is he's just pushing it to really make something so true, so real, and so uncompromising that back to being a drummer. Never heard drums sound even close to being real from any other speaker, except through a pair of Cesaros.
Like German made?
Yeah.
Carl.
I'm really thrilled with what I have now. And then we have the Zeiler stuff here, which is all Swiss, all handmade in Switzerland by Ralph Zeiler. They are so amazing. And they're beautifully designed. The build quality is just unbelievable. They just sound incredible. The preamp's got an amazing funnel stage built inside.
Continue. Tell me about these Eleno.
The auto step.
So have kind of a Tron look.
Right. Yeah, not Tron from England, but Tron the movie. I know, right? Right. It's so interesting. So, the preamp is all run by battery. So that's the battery back there. on the other SRA Virginia class stand with no lights on it. It's got the big power cord wrapped around it. So that's the battery supply. So that's feeding this. So preamp, dead quiet. I mean, the system's on, volume's up. And we're sitting in front of 100, 10 dB efficient horns. You hear nothing. So each of the inputs, except for input 1, there's 3 different gain stages you can adjust. So you can dial your whole system in to have always the same volume, which is really remarkable. Nobody else does anything in that. Right, both balanced and single-ended. The amplifier here, this is their smallest amplifier. This is a 2A3 amp. Typical 2A3 amp is 3 watts. Those are the Italian feed rate 2A3 tubes in there, which are left over from when I used to have the Condo 2A3 amps years ago. But that's 100 watts, single-ended. So we got Zyler here. We have the cables here. Most of the cables you're seeing are Dolby Audio, are the UK. They're all made by Lee Dolby. And Lee is probably one of the most forward-thinking but soulful builders I've ever encountered. He just thinks totally out of box. Stuff's not cheap, but it's everything he builds is a game changer. So he's the one that even, builds the record weight there.
And what does that bizarre-looking record weight do?
So besides, it's really about tuning. It's just that simple. It's Mapingo ebony, it's titanium, it's brass, carbon fiber, and gold.
And what cartridges are you using?
There's I have the Fuga set up in the rear. I've got the Dava, and I have the MC2020 Audio-Technica. Those are the 3 right now that are set up.
Tell me about you. You said you had a lot of music in your house. Tell me about growing up in Buffalo. What did your parents do? And are there musicians in your family?
So on my dad's side, everybody was a musician.
Really? Wow.
So we had a barbershop. And then, they're Sicilian immigrants. Be barbering during the day, but at night they go in the back room, and the band was set up.
What did your dad play?
My dad was a trumpet player.
Oh, wow.
And so they played music. So there was always music around. My dad wanted to be a trumpet player professionally, teach music, whatever. But, this is World War II. You don't do that kind of stuff.
Right.
Especially being, Italian immigrants. Right. We always had a stereo, and there was all, my dad bought records. He mainly listened to Dixieland and big band stuff. What was interesting, he had this collection of Capitol put it out. It was the history of jazz or something like that. And that was 5, 6 different albums. Most of the stuff you would not want to listen to. Right. But there was a Miles Davis cut on the last one. There was a Miles Davis cut. When I heard that at 8 years old, it was like the heavens had parted, or the seas had parted, whatever that expression is, was just, oh my God, what is that? And it just always stayed with me. And I used to play that cut over and over and over again. So somehow, I got it really young, even though there was all this other stuff. And I also got, and I used to buy him for his birthday and stuff like that. But I used to always buy him Count Basie records. Joe Jones, come on. That's a drummer. Him and my mom used to go and see Sinatra play at the Paramount here at New York. And, they saw a lot of people. I'm not trying to say we had very sophisticated music growing up, There was a lot of bad stuff too. But the thing is that it was a very accepting household for music. And they were very encouraging for us as the children to be musicians or to play an instrument.